Brandon Aiyuk got his money from the San Francisco 49ers, but that is not enough for them to win the Super Bowl. I'll explain on today's Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready. Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the new Locked On NFL. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined by my Locked On NFL expert, Alex Clancy. Locked On NFL is now bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. And on today's show, we're going to talk why Brandon Aiyuk getting paid is not enough for the San Francisco 49ers to win the Super Bowl. Also, the Giants are making moves to try to be competitive in the NFC East. And spoiler, I don't think it's enough either. And we'll also talk about how Patrick Mahomes is going to put himself squarely in the GOAT debate with a three-peat this year. Before we dive in, do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen of the day, for being an everydayer here on Locked On NFL, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure that you tune in later to the Barbershop with Tony Wiggins here on Locked On NFL. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. That's all lowercase, Locked On NFL, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. PrizePicks, run your game. Brandon Aiyuk got his money. Let's go to San Francisco and hear from our guys at Locked On 49ers, Eric Crocker and Brian Peacock.
Wow, the saga's over. Brandon Aiyuk back with the San Francisco 49ers. All right, now what's the line for the Monday Night Football game against the New York Jets, Croc?
I think it's a true 3.5 in favor of the Niners. A true 3.5. I feel much better. My vibes, I'm not going to lie. We've been talking about this and stuff, and I've been a little, but I will say this. Let's see how people's tune changes towards Brandon Aiyuk. See, my tune towards him never changed. It's, hey, I want him with the 49ers. There have been a lot of people that have been on the other side. Oh, just let him go. He's a diva. He's this, he's that. And now, what are those same people doing? They got the same smile on their face that I have.
Good stuff there from the guys at Locked On 49ers. But, I mean, Alex, for me, it's good that they paid Brandon Aiyuk. They needed to pay Brandon Aiyuk. We talked about this, the best situation, the best outcome for both these sides is for Aiyuk to be back with San Francisco. But at the end of the day, Brandon Aiyuk is not enough to get them to the Super Bowl. They're still missing Trent Williams. Unfortunately, their first-round rookie wide receiver, Ricky Pearsall, was shot over the weekend. I hope, obviously he's feeling better. Things seem to be at an okay spot. But San Francisco is nowhere near good enough without Trent Williams. They have to have Trent Williams at left tackle to be able to win anything. And with the Super Bowl hangover that we see, I do not think that bringing Brandon Aiyuk back and not getting a deal done with Trent Williams and having Brock Purdy, it's not going to be enough for San Francisco. And I don't think that they go back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, in Kyle Shanahan's offense, Brandon Aiyuk is going to be the third option behind Christian McCaffrey and Christian McCaffrey. So it's very rare where a running back gets first and second targets or handoffs or whatever it is, but he does. And then you've got Debo, you've got George Kittle, and they lost all of their games last year that Trent Williams didn't play. So even though Trent Williams is 10 years older than Brandon Aiyuk, Trent Williams could go down as a top 5 left tackle in the history of football. And I'd much rather, like you, have seen them, giving him the cheese first. And you know what? All this whole report about how this was the same deal that was offered to him initially, how much time was wasted where they could have reworked something to be able to pay Trent Williams before the season started, and he's not holding out. So I don't understand. It seems kind of upside down. They're kind of flailing with unknown of the future. So I agree with you. I think it should have been Trent Williams first.
Yeah, and there's so much pressure on this season to get back to the Super Bowl, to win. Purdy's contract looming. Can they afford Debo and Ayuk and Williams, all of that? I just don't think it's enough for San Francisco, and I think they could look a little bit different next year. But Brandon Aiyuk isn't the only wide receiver that got big money this summer. CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, among others. Jamar Chase still waiting. Let's go to our guys down the Locked On Cowboys podcast as they discuss the CeeDee Lamb extension.
The money part of it, it seemed like it was so obvious. So why was there a pause from the Cowboys or hesitancy from the Cowboys to do this deal when I think everybody knew what the numbers were going to be?
I think that the length of the contract was still up in the air until probably, the last week. I do think that the years are ultimately where the final kind of hurdle to get over. Look, I mean, this was a situation with Dak, the last contract, right? Is that Dak wanted a shorter deal than the Joneses wanted to offer because they like, and it's either or, right? It's like they want to have the option to either have a lower guaranteed amount or they want to have that extra year on the deal in order to kind of move things around for cap flexibility, right? That's just the way that the Joneses operate, for good or bad, right?
You are Locked On Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Okay, so look, I think the Cowboys were right to pay CeeDee Lamb. They needed to do that. I don't know why Jerry Jones has been dragging his feet on all this stuff all season long with Dak and the whole situation. Their team's not good enough, so playing chicken with your best players seems insane. But I guess it comes down to this. Out of all these wide receivers that got paid this year, Brandon Aiyuk, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown got new money. Tyreek Hill got some new money. Alex, which of those receivers do you think would have the best year? I got to tell you, for me, it's still Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is the best player. He's the best wide receiver out of that group. So I'm going with Justin Jefferson personally, even though with Sam Darnold, I could see how that could be a drawback.
Yeah, I think it's CeeDee just by default. They got no run game from guys under the age of 28. This is just a run back from last year when Jerry Jones says, we're going to change everything. We're on the offensive. They haven't done jack. Right. And paying CeeDee Lamb's going to have the most targets. Like, I don't see a world where he's not the number one receiver in football just because of how the offense is constructed and how much it's going to be predicated upon the pass. You'll get your Zeke run early in the season. They'll realize he's old. Dalvin Cook is old. Rico Dowdle is undersized. He would be an RB1 if he was an RB1. And it's going to be CeeDee Lamb. It's going to be Jake Ferguson. They're going to run it back like they did last year, barring any sort of unforeseen events. I don't see a world where CeeDee Lamb doesn't have the most yards at the end of the year, just predicated upon his talent and his situation.
Yeah, having Dak Prescott compared to Sam Darnold, and then with J.J. McCarthy getting hurt, you don't even have a good backup behind you. Cooper Rush, pretty decent backup as well. It's pretty fair bet. I think you made a pretty good case there, Alex. But with that being said, there are some NFC East teams that made some roster moves over the past few days. Can the underdogs in the NFC East rise up and compete for a playoff spot? Also, Pat Mahomes is about to become the LeBron in the LeBron Jordan debate. So we're going to talk about all of that. Before we do, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets. Look, it's football season, and you're going to want to check out this new feature Game Time has called Game Time Picks. It filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. They also have all-in pricing. All you got to do is toggle on the feature, and you can actually see what you're going to pay for your tickets, which is hard to find in the industry. Also, you get a view from your seat, so you literally know what you're going to be looking at when you sit down. Make sure that you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's something that you would love to learn? As an adult, do you make time to learn new things as often as you'd like, or was that lost in childhood? Okay, kids are always learning and growing, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back to school era can come at any age. I've worked with BetterHelp before. It was a great experience. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, Alex, we got some roster moves in the NFC East that we are going to dive into here. Can the underdogs in the East compete for a playoff spot? I don't think so. But we're going to get into those moves and see how things shake out before we do. Thanks again for making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day. Make sure that you check out the Barbershop with Tony Wiggins later on this afternoon. He's going to be chopping it up in the afternoon with you guys all week long. You're not going to want to miss that conversation. But looking at the NFC East here, the Giants brought back cornerback Adoree Jackson. We're going to head to Locked On Giants for my girl Patricia Traina. Is going to give us some knowledge.
The New York Giants finally broke down and re-signed veteran cornerback Adoree Jackson to a one-year deal. Jackson, who was a starting cornerback for the Giants the last 3 seasons, immediately should bolster a Giants cornerback room that, while filled with a lot of talent, also lacks solid experience, which showed up during the summer training camp. Jackson likely projects to cornerback 2, opposite of second-year starter Deonte Banks. With both Cordell Flott and Nick McLeod battling it out for the CB2 role over the summer, and neither really separating himself from the pack, figure that Jackson, once he's ramped up, will take on that role for the Giants.
Look, the Giants needed another cornerback. I think Adoree Jackson is a good player. He's not a great player, obviously. He never lived up to the first-round billing from when he was drafted by the Titans, but he's a good player. I don't care. The Giants are not competing. I think the Giants could be one of the worst teams in the NFL. Their offensive line is still incredibly spotty. Daniel Jones already has injury history, so now we may, halfway through the year, be scared. Malik Neighbors is going to be an awesome player. I really do believe that. But I don't believe that the quarterback that he's going to be working with for most of his career is on that team right now. I think that the Giants are one of the worst rosters in the NFL. Adding Adoree Jackson, to me, doesn't make them competitive. I don't think the Giants are getting anywhere near the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't adore the New York Giants and their chances of winning this year. Just put it that way. I mean, if you're going to talk about a team that is an underdog in the NFC East that may have a chance to rise the ranks, and you and I have discussed this, the potentially most young electric player in the NFC East is Jaden Daniels. So we've seen a young quarterback who played for the Washington former name in Robert Griffin III completely flip the script on what people thought that team was going to be. And I'm not saying they have the same skill set. I'm not saying anything like that. I know that Jaden Daniels, as tall and as fleet of foot with the cannon that he has the capability to surprise some people. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. But, yeah, I think that the Giants are going to be in the cellar looking to draft top 5 and maybe drafting a quarterback in that spot.
Yeah, honestly, I think the Commanders would probably be better this year than the Giants. It may be close, but I think they'll be better. Speaking of the Commanders, they made a trade last week, an interdivision trade, the second one we've seen this offseason in the NFC East. And they traded former first-round wide receiver Jahan Dotson to the Eagles, which I can't say I was a big fan of that move, but we'll hear from David Harrison of Locked On Commanders first.
Some are expecting new Washington Commanders receiver Noah Brown to compete for the team's second spot on the depth chart. But regardless of his spot, it's actually his versatility that might make him the right fit at this position at this point, more than just worrying about where Noah Brown's going to be on the depth chart. I think understanding who Noah Brown is as a player, his ability on the perimeter, his ability down the field, his ability in the slot, but also his ability as a blocker really kind of gives you that holistic picture of why the Washington Commanders went ahead and brought him in. I spent 5 years with the Dallas Cowboys. Best year in Dallas came in 2022, 43 catches, 555 yards, 3 touchdowns in 16 games with 13 starts. Signed with the Houston Texans ahead of the 2023 season, played in 10 games, started 7 of them, finished the year with 33 catches, 567 yards, and 2 touchdowns. 45 of his 55 targets in the slot. He's also known as a very solid blocker as a wide receiver, which is important, and he's kind of known for his toughness.
Look, I like Noah Brown. I really do like Noah Brown. I think he's a solid player. I think a lot of fans, think of he's either a star or he's a bum, and that's not the case. Like, there are role players who may not be starting level, but they're still important for your team. I think that's Noah Brown. But Noah Brown isn't as talented as Jahan Dotson. And I don't quite understand. And I saw a recent report about Luke McCaffrey, who they drafted, who could be a slot guy. That he's, the fourth receiver on the depth chart before the Noah Brown move. Listen, I think that the Commanders could be better than the Giants. I just said that, and I agree. But I don't think either of these teams is going to be very good. The problem with Washington is their offensive line is terrible. I mean, Sam Howell got destroyed all last year, and Samuel Cosme is a good player, but they can get every wide receiver they want off the scrap heap. The offensive line isn't good enough for them to compete for a playoff spot.
Yeah, agreed. Coming from a Cliff Kingsbury experience for 4 seasons over in Arizona, you're going to see a lot of Brian Robinson, a lot of Austin Eckler in the pass game to kind of move the ball down the field. Terry McLaurin will be featured heavily, obviously, as he's their wide receiver 1. But the McCaffrey thing is fascinating because if it looks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's a duck. He's a McCaffrey and he's in the NFL. Right. Sometimes it just happens. Rice by way of Nebraska isn't as sexy as Stanford, where Christian McCaffrey went bonkers in his final Rose Bowl, like all of those things. That doesn't mean that he can't be a serviceable wide receiver 3 from the slot, which, Cliff Kingsbury and those guys over there will hopefully be able to get the most out of. Jahan Dotson didn't show anything. So I don't think it's 6-1 for both of these guys. Maybe a new fresh look in both of their new locations will serve them well.
Yeah, I mean, that could be great. That could be great, but neither of these teams are competing for a playoff spot. Right. I just refuse to believe that. If I had to pick one, I would say Washington.
Agreed.
But I just don't see it. But it is Patrick Mahomes until it's not Patrick Mahomes. And we are going to talk about Patrick Mahomes and him creating, I think there's going to be an NFL version of the most beat to death sports conversation ever. Who is the GOAT? We're going to have a brand new one to discuss for the next 20 years. After what Mahomes does this year, I'll explain what I'm thinking before I do, though. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the most fun daily fantasy sports app. They have over 5 million active members for a reason. So it's this simple. You pick a lineup, and every player has a stat, and you just say whether they're going to do more or less. So Patrick Mahomes, 250 passing yards, more. Xavier Worthy, 3 catches, more. Travis Kelce, 60 yards, more. Harrison Butker, 2 makes, less. You get what I'm saying. You're picking up what I'm putting down. The best part is on PrizePicks, you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. It's really that simple, and it is so much fun. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you pay $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. All right, Alex, we're going to cap off today's show. Thank you all so much for making the Locked On NFL podcast your first listen each and every day. Make sure that you check out this afternoon's show in the barbershop with Tony Wiggins, where he'll be chopping up all of the best NFL conversation. And he's going to talk about this as well, because I got something to say. I think that Patrick Mahomes has a great chance to create the new GOAT debate. It's not LeBron and Jordan. No, it's Brady and Mahomes. I think he can do that this year. And honestly, the fact that he's that good and only was ranked the 4th best player in the NFL by the players is absurd. And Chris Clark from Locked On Chiefs thinks it's pretty nuts as well.
And the NFL 100 is finally out, and it is done. Kansas City got 3 players in the NFL top 100, all 3 of them in the top 10. Travis Kelce at number 9, Chris Jones at number 6, and Patrick Mahomes right where you would expect him at number 4. You know, when you look at this, I just absolutely cannot imagine the thought process of putting Patrick Mahomes as the 4th best player headed into the 2024 season. He lost out. You have Christian McCaffrey win at 3. Lamar Jackson was 2. And for the first time ever, you have a wide receiver in Tyreek Hill who was number 1. This list does not make sense to me at all. Patrick Mahomes, we're going to see Petty Mahomes. Guarantee it. He is not going to care for being number 4 in the NFL. And he's not number 4 in the NFL. He is the best player, and it is not even close. Let me know what you all think, and we will talk about this more on Locked On Chiefs.
Petty Mahomes. I love that. As a madman myself, I love a little bit of pettiness. So Petty Mahomes is pretty funny there. You know, I got to say, Alex, I think that Patrick Mahomes is closer to being the best player ever than he is the 4th best player in the NFL right now. It's insane. But really, I just want to make my point that I've been making all along is when Patrick Mahomes goes and wins a 3-peat this year, something that Tom Brady never did, the conversations that we will all start to have will be like the LeBron Jordan debate. Jordan obviously had the 6 championships. LeBron doesn't, but LeBron's peak and some of the crazy stuff that he was able to do. Okay, Mahomes may never get 7 rings. He may get 4 or 5, whatever it happens to be. But the way that he did it in his peak, people are going to say, no, Patrick Mahomes was better than Tom Brady. That is going to be the new GOAT debate that everyone has on every TV show and every radio station for all eternity. And you know what? Me too, Alex. I'm still going with Tom Brady. Rings matter. So Patrick Mahomes, I think he's going to 3-peat this year. And I think that'll put him in that GOAT debate that we have like with LeBron and Jordan. Mahomes and Brady will be that big.
Yeah, you know, Patrick Mahomes is kind of doing what Michael Jordan and LeBron have done. LeBron made a whole bunch of finals in a row. Patrick Mahomes has made, 6 AFC championship games in a row, a handful of AFC championship games in a row, and he's won his championship super early. Jordan never did that. He's won it super early. In the first decade of his career, he's won 3. You know, and with him, he's kind of rewriting, and you have to infuse the Steph Curry element into it, where he's doing it with a smile, he's doing it off a back foot, and he's doing it like nobody's ever seen before. What we're witnessing is what we thought Aaron Rodgers was going to be.
Yes.
Right? So, but you look at it with Kansas City, you look at it with New England. New England they underpaid everybody. Bill Belichick was a curmudgeon. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick, and that was Drew Bledsoe's team. It happened so differently. They had no pop until they got Randy Moss, and then it was Edelman and, Gronk and everything. This has been just eye-ear, soul-warming candy from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. They're lovable, and they're killing you.
Yep.
They're lovable, and they're ripping your soul out in 13 seconds, Buffalo Bills. Like, it is something that you love, and only a certain faction of fans hate. The teams that have, like, Bengals fans, Eagles fans, 49ers fans, who they have repeatedly beaten in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. So they're doing it with a smile on their face. They know they're better than you. They continually outclass and outwork and outmaneuver, and there's no slowing down with this shit. Patrick Mahomes took less money. He's not Dak Prescott. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not, Jalen Hurts. He's not Joe Burrow. He took less money to Chris Jones and Travis Kelce paid. That's different. And he's doing with a smile, and the crescendo is just starting. He's not even getting worked up yet.
Yeah, I mean, is he even halfway through his career at this point? I mean, people are playing later and later. His arm strength, obviously it diminishes a little bit with age, but it's so strong right now that even a diminished Patrick Mahomes, it's like Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning had diminished skills at the end, but it's still Peyton Manning. You get the remnants of absolute greatness. So, yeah, we talked about this. I think the Chiefs are winning this year. I think they're 3-peating, and I think that we will be having conversations about Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady right now. Like, those are the top 2, no question. Like we did with LeBron during LeBron's career. Is LeBron better than Jordan? Everywhere, everyone wants to talk about it. That's what it's going to be for Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady after this season as well. But thank you all so much for tuning in to the new Locked On NFL podcast. As a reminder, my guy Tony Wiggins, the barber, is going to be chopping it up in the barber shop later this afternoon. A double dose of NFL info, insights, opinions, and conversation coming your way. But that is going to do it for me, the Madman, Tyler Rowland. Thank you, Alex Clancy, for joining the show. We'll be having a clash with Clancy every Monday here on the new Locked On NFL. So thank you all so much for tuning in. That's going to do it for us today. Stay safe out there. Football's right around the corner.